and Canada. At the age of 50, Dr. Iyer decided to dedicate his life to spreading the message of yoga, wellness, and human advancement through spirituality. In the workshops and retreats he conducts across the world, Dr. Iyer seeks to share his knowledge of human advancement and yoga to help others experience life to its fullest potential. Dr. Iyer is currently in Trinidad exploring to set up an international center for integrated yoga and human advancement. Tonight, we are indeed honored to have him present to us on a constant integrated awareness, a yogi lifestyle. Some house announcements. Kindly ensure that you are registered for tonight's session and have received a booklet from the registration desk. Please note that the Arya Pratinidhi Sabha is also a member organization of the International Day of Yoga Committee. Their name was accidentally not printed on the booklet with the other member organizations. Washroom facilities are available through the door behind you and down the corridor on the right. Art of fasting, yoga for youth, Ayurvedic health, and much more. Please visit the Yoga Fest Facebook page to register online. There will be a question and answer segment at the end of Dr. Iyer's session this evening to address any of your concerns. In the event that you may be a little reserved in expressing your thoughts in public, you can either email Dr. Iyer directly at yogaman@iyerzone.com or lodge your questions at our registration desk and they'll be addressed via email. So without further ado, I hand you over to Dr. Iyer.
Back to the splendor is the rising of the Kundalini, going back to being the supreme Prakriti or Mahamaya or Devi, whatever you call it. That is the essence of the whole practice of yoga. Today, this topic that I have chosen the title is contemporary, and in the course of my presentation, I'll tell you how this term came about. Constant integrated awareness. What is constant integrated awareness? First of all, constant, we know that's something that is on all the time. And we are aware. We know what awareness is. We have to be aware of something constantly. What is that? Awareness of an integration. constantly you're aware of an integration. What is that integration? And this is the key for me to take yoga and practice it every day, the philosophy of the Vedanta to practice it every day in today's lifestyle, with all the challenges that we face in today's world. And that is what we're going to emphasize and focus on today. So, what is integration that we need to be constantly aware of? The integration of the body, mind, and spirit. And I know you're going, duh, we know that already. Even the atheist is going to say, all right, assuming that there is a spirit somewhere there, we know that it's all inside you, it's integrated. Nobody claims that your mind is somewhere, your spirit is somewhere, and your body is somewhere. We know they are all together. All of us know that. In fact, there is a great deal of science and medicine has now understood that mind and body are interlinked. It took a while for them to understand that. But now they are understanding that diseases that are physically expressed have more or less some kind of a causal relation with the mind. So if you're stressed out, your immune system becomes weak and therefore you're more prone to diseases in the physical body. And so now they're finding a relationship. It's almost very well established between mind and the body. The spirit is still waiting for the door to be open. So even the atheist will say that we already know they're all in the same who you are. It's all fit in there already. They're not disintegrated. So what is there special to be aware of this? We know it. But that's the whole point. Knowing it intellectually is one thing. Knowing it scientifically in a research lab is one thing. Reading about it is one thing. And being aware of it on an everyday basis is a completely different thing. Let me give you a small example. When was the last time you sat with a plate of food on your table and saw the spread of food that you picked up from your buffet or was served, however it may be? And when was the last time you saw the food and said, I wonder how this is going to affect my thinking tomorrow? Probably never. Or maybe once in a while. We don't understand. And yet everything that goes in through our mouth, and of course through the ears, and through the senses, the eyes, and through our touch, everything is food going in, and all of them have an impact on the mind. And the impact on the mind, we know has its impact on the body because that is scientifically established. We know it. But when we eat our food, we don't realize that. So being aware is entirely different than just knowing intellectually and once in a while saying, yes, I know we are all mind, body, spirit. There are so many programs for mind, body, spirit. But then how do you take it and practice it on an everyday basis? That is why yoga comes in handy, because every day it's a ritual. You're coming back to the center. You're centering yourself, paying attention to this body that we take it for granted. Until some red flag comes up in the body, sugar or blood pressure, or you find a dizzy spell, then you run to the doctor. Until then, you're just taking it for granted. You're running this vehicle without any maintenance. Though you take your car for regular oil change. You take your car for checking tire pressure. You make sure your car is clean. And you don't all that stuff. You take care of a vehicle made of iron and steel. And yet this vehicle that is serving you and has tremendous potential and so many mystical centers within waiting to be explored, we take it for granted. Constant integrated awareness, therefore, is bringing that awareness back into the front. So every thought of mine, every word of mine, every deed of mine, I bring this to the forefront, that I am not just the body, I am the body, mind, and the spirit as well. And that is not going to take the fun out of your life. It's actually going to make you more empowered and live your life more fully. That's the beauty of it. Because when we say spirituality, they'll say, okay, let's keep the spirituality aside. Let's have some fun now. Many of us do that. No, let's not talk spirituality. This is a party. Let's talk something else. But little do we realize that becoming more aware spiritually actually embraces life in even more. You're able to embrace life even more. It's just like, as I say, when an actor knows that he's acting a role, he becomes a better actor. But if he identifies himself with the role, and if that role is crying like a beggar and he says, oh my gosh, I'm really become a beggar. If he becomes a beggar and imagines that he's a beggar, then nobody can help him. He's not going to act very well because he's going to be really emotional. Or if he falls in love with every heroine, he's dancing and running around, he's going to be a mess. But he knows he's acting, and therefore he's able to portray that role much better. That is the beauty of knowing who you are. When you know that this is a role that you have adopted in this life, then you are able to play that role much better, because you know it's only a role, it's not the real you. That awareness is what we want to meditate and contemplate and bring it to the forefront, to our conscious mind, every day, in and out, till it slowly becomes gets into every fiber of our being, and you practice yoga. So that is what we are going to discuss, constant integrated awareness. How do we bring that into this? How do we actually make it happen? The basis of all this, I just want to put it out there, as Patanjali said earlier, is yoga chitta vritti nirodha. This is why we are practicing yoga. This is why we are practicing any kind of spiritual progress, is to reach this point where chitta, the vrittis can be described as modulations, impressions. The eyes are seeing something, the ears are listening to something, the nose is smelling something. The senses are constantly gathering information. Even though you are now listening to me and I am focused on speaking to you, that is taking some part of my mind, but then there is a 98% or 95% of my subconscious mind that is gathering a lot of other information that I am not consciously able to process at that speed. I believe it processes something like 10 trillion or something, some really huge number of zeros. I lose track after a few zeros. I was very bad in math. But it's something like trillion, some 10, 15 trillion every second it can process at a subconscious level. So nothing that, you may think that you're just sleeping or you're just watching one thing, but there is a lot of information that is being gathered. And it all are creating impressions on your chitta. Chitta is a substratum which it comprises of your mind, it comprises of your senses, it comprises of your intellect, it comprises of your emotions, it comprises of your ego, all of that. It's also called the antakarana. A combination of all this, and constantly they are getting bombarded with information, with modulations and impressions. And therefore yoga is to seize this process. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Stop it. Stop this from causing impressions on my chitta. Now this sounds really boring, because once the impressions are seized and you attain the state of nirodha, then you're as good as dead. I mean, at least it sounds like that, right? How is this even practical in today's world? What does this really mean? Is this really practical? Is it feasible? Or is it just one of those fantastical thoughts that we put an ideal up there and which can never be reached? Is it really possible to attain that state of complete nirodha, where the impression cease to affect the chitta? The way we understand that is not stopping of the thoughts. It's not stopping of impressions. It's not saying my eyes are not going to see anything, my ears are not going to listen to anything, my tongue is not going to taste anything, I'm not going to touch anybody or anything. Then you might as well be a tree, but even the tree has some senses. So what does it mean then? What does it mean? Here's a beautiful way that, aphorisms, especially Yoga Sutras and all the sutras, Brahma Sutra, Yoga Sutra, all these sutras are aphorisms, just one statement like this, and you meditate and get the answer out of it, and you listen to gurus, experts, scholars, and then you begin to understand, oh my gosh, there is a whole different perspective hidden behind this. So on the surface, though it seems like, oh, this is cessation of thoughts, that's ridiculous, that's never going to happen. So modern psychiatrists would look at it and say, this is one of those fancy things you Hindus believe in. This is never practical. But the real truth behind this is, I always give this analogy, the best way to explain is, you go camping, you are out there in the evening, the mosquitoes are biting you and all the insects are attacking you. What would you do? You have two choices. One is start killing the mosquitoes one by one. Okay? Or maybe 4 at a time if you have a big blanket. But then when will that stop? You will spend camp night killing mosquitoes. Because you're going to take care of one mosquito, there are going to be 10 coming at you. So you're going to be putting this off all night. Or you can be clever and take the second choice. You apply a repellent. Once you apply the repellent, the mosquito repellent, then though the mosquitoes are there, they cease to create impressions on your body. They cease to affect you. And therefore now you can be part of the forest, can enjoy the campfire without allowing cause to you. That is what Patanjali is talking to us about. So that is ultimate empowerment. Being empowered in such a way that I can cause all these vrittis will not affect me anymore. There is some empowerment that I can, the knowledge of yoga will stop the vrittis from affecting me anymore. That is the beauty of yoga chitta vritti nirodha. And once you're empowered with that, then you get back into the society. The beauty why the Bhagavad Gita has survived, it's one of the Hindu texts, and it has so many, it's the highest wisdom of its kind. It was a synopsis of the entire Vedanta. All the Upanishads, Vyasa put it together, and then Krishna spoke, and then that is the whole gist of every Upanishad. So if you want to understand all of it in one book, that's one book, but that's a lifetime study by itself. The reason why this Gita is so powerful, it's because it's teaching you that very secret of this. How to empower yourself. Who are you truly? And the beauty of it is that who received it was a warrior, and Krishna didn't say, now that you realized, go home and relax. Give up the world. Neither did the warrior say, alright, I've realized, oh my gosh, I am not this anymore. And he didn't go home and relinquish what he was doing. In fact, he fought the war and he won the war. But he didn't allow his actions to bind him. So, none of this philosophy in Vedanta is meant to make you weak, is meant to make you inactive in society. In fact, it's the other way around. The greatest of kings were actually trained in Vedanta. The highest philosophy. That is what they went through a training program. They spent years in the Guru's hermitage in those days, spent a lifetime learning it, and then they went out to the kingdom to rule. Rama, the greatest king on earth, went through the same learning process. Sat at the feet of the Guru and learned. Vashishta taught him the very same Vedanta. And then he went out and practiced Vedanta. Krishna went through the same thing. All the great kings that we ascribe and give the status of gods, all of them went through the same learning process and became the kings of the highest order. And so, none of this topic that we discuss here is to make you weak or impotent or not fit into the society. It's actually going to help you become more fit into the society, leaders in the world. Alright. So that is what brings us to this, the mindful leader, yogi of the 21st century. How do you want a yogi to be? This is a traditional yogi. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I still want to be this. I got the bald part of it. I wait for Maya to give me permission for the next part. This is a traditional yogi. A yogi who renounces, and that is still very much applicable today. There are schools in India. We have the Ramakrishna mission, the Chinmaya mission, who train people of the highest. This is the highest. This is the most revered society. It's only in Indian civilization, only in Indian culture, that this concept even exists. Concept of letting go of everything, not only worldly, but not belonging to any religion. They don't adopt any religion. They give up everything. And that is why when they die, when sannyasis die, you say you don't burn them because they've already burnt all their possessions. There's nothing to burn them. And therefore in India you bury them. They don't get burned. These are the only people in the Hindus who don't get, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say burned, I say cremated. They don't get cremated, they get buried. Because they already burned. So this is the burned there, all their desires and all their relations and everything, completely detached, ideally, traditional yogi. And if they are engaging themselves in work, they are engaging purely for the welfare of the mankind. This is not feasible for everyone. Probably at one point of time in our culture it was feasible and people would do this. But today is the 21st century. And today's yogi is this, the mindful leader. You don't have to be dressed in ochre robes. You don't have to be dressed and wear signs that show that you are somehow spiritual or religious. What is going to make you stand out is the quality of your thoughts. the power behind your words, and the depth of wisdom and conviction that you have in your spirit. That is what is going to stand out and make you the yogi of the 21st century. If we need to be leaders in the society, whether it is political or financial leaders or leaders in the corporate world, this is the yogi that you need to become, the yogi of the 21st century. So that is why I said Vedanta is not necessary to extricate you away from where you are. It's actually helping you to empower yourself. And especially yoga helps you to become more empowered and be a yogi. Why? Because the mindful leader, a yogi who's in the corporate world, is also dealing with detachment, is also dealing with a sense of mindfulness, focusing in the present. He doesn't focus in the past. You're not focused in the future. Take things as they come. So when you are in a project and you're handling a project, there is financial pressures, there is deadline pressures, and there is time pressure. You have commitments at home, you have commitments at work. How do you deal with all this? When you're mindful, you're focusing in the moment at the problem at hand, not worried about the future. If you analyze, most of the time, we are either caught up in the past, like worried about, not worried, but caught up in the memories of the past, good or bad. Most of the time it's bad, because we love the self-pity thing. So we go back to the past, oh God, poor me, how did I go through all this? And there is a whole thing, we keep going back and back, bringing that into the moment. So what is happening in the moment is now colored by our past. We are not able to see what's going on now. When you meet a particular person, you're like, you met him yesterday, and let's say for argument's sake, you didn't like this person. He's coming back today, you're going to say, how do I avoid this person now? I'm not going to pretend I'm not going to look at him. And all this coloring is, why? Because the moment I saw this person, my yesterday's memories come, and today it's clouded who this person could be today. It could be a completely different person today, but it's clouded. And then I am worried and anxious about the future. Times I don't dwell in the past, I'm caught up in the future. I'm worried about where to go for dinner next, or I'm worried about what's going to happen tomorrow, or 10 years later, or 15 years later, or what's going to happen to my children, and then worry becomes a habit. Somebody told me, I don't get any worries, and I'm a little concerned. Should I be worried? So they actually worried that they don't get worried. So worry becomes a habit. After a while, if you're not worried, you think something is wrong. My mind is just quieting down. I don't like it. I have to be worried about something. So worry becomes a habit. We're constantly caught up in the past or the future. Constantly, never focusing in the moment. And that is why the mindful yogi of the 21st century, yoga, teaches you to be in the moment. And when you're in the moment, you're able to handle the problems at hand right there, then and there. And that solution gives you a little confidence and takes you to the next step. That's the beauty of being practical and taking yoga and applying it in your everyday life. So, Patanjali gave us 5,000 years ago, gave us not for today's 21st century, but he knew that man is going to go through this for centuries from now on. Alright? Why haven't we changed much from 5,000 years ago? What have we really changed? We changed the way we dress. Yes. We changed the way we live. Our houses look different. So we build homes of a different kind. We change the materials. They are more stronger, withstand more weather. So we don't have to keep rebuilding our huts and thatched roofs. Okay, those people did that. They burned 2,000 calories a day maintaining their huts and went to the woods, cut wood for fire. They had fuel. So there's a whole different lifestyle. We moved away from that. We built so physically. We don't exert ourselves physically anymore. We don't have to be hunters or gatherers or farmers. We don't have to be. We can sit at home, make a call, or order on the internet. Food comes to us. So we have changed the superficial way of living. Superficially, yes. We have changed the way we live. We use a different mode of transport. We don't go on horses and carriages or elephants or camels. Some do, but we don't. At least in Trinidad, I hope we don't have elephants coming down the highway. In India, you do. But then we have moved away from that. We have cars that take us places. So superficially, yes, we have become different. But as a human being, as a person, have we conquered over the years greed, desire, anger, jealousy, hatred, ignorance, We haven't conquered that. We are still fighting the same thing that man was fighting. It's almost like every one of us starts, whether you're born then or born now, we have to start and work on this. And I avoid working at it. I'm going to come back and work on it till I face these devils in the closet and overcome one by one all of them. So Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, which are the 6 sins, are all still there. We are still greedy. We may be sending a message by email rather than having a pigeon fly, a dove fly over, tie it on their foot and then let the dove go, which happened 3,000 years ago. But what you write in that letter and what you wrote now is the same. If King Yudhishthira in the Mahabharata story, if he was addicted to gambling, we are addicted to something else. So addiction is still there. We haven't escaped. And therefore, whatever Patanjali taught us, wrote 5,000 years ago, for almost all humankind who are looking for evolution, they say, okay, first tackle these things and set right and then go. So Patanjali's aim of evolution begins with what he calls the yamas. Yamas and niyamas. Now there are, in the printed booklet that you have, I've listed 10 yamas and 10 niyamas, which are traditionally. Patanjali was not the one who wrote these yamas and niyamas. He's not the one who wrote the yoga, the ideas of Yoga Sutra for the first time. He did not bring yoga to the people. He merely carried what was already existing. He was passing it on. So he applied his due diligence, and he said, instead of taking 10 and 10, I'm just going to make it 5 and 5, for whatever reason. And so it's easier for us perhaps to memorize 5 and 5 and apply that. In his own, some scholars have studied the Yoga Sutras and said some of these maybe including all the others as well, which he purposefully omitted. Because even before him, in the Sandilya Upanishads and in the other Upanishads, the 10 in Tirumandiram, in the Tamil scriptures and yoga, the 10 yamas and the 10 niyamas are given. And they are spelled out for you. But in today's lecture, I'm just going to take the 5 yamas which are there in the Yoga Sutras and the 5 niyamas. Let's explore them and see how they are relevant to us even today. The first one is ahimsa, non-violence. And the greatest yogi who practiced this non-violence in a very practical manner is Mahatma Gandhi. And that's why I couldn't resist but put his picture. Because if we talk of non-violence and not bring Gandhi into the picture, it will almost be like, you're missing the elephant in the hall. So he was the very embodiment of non-violence. He got political freedom for India through non-violence. So non-violence is such a spiritual quality, and he applied it to politics. He brought freedom to India using spiritual values. So here's another great yogi who actually took the spiritual principles and applied it and actually brought about a political freedom, a political change in today's world. Okay? Now that was supposedly the most impractical thing to do, being non-violent. Because we often ask ourselves, so if I'm going to practice peace and non-violence, then what happens? People are going to hit me, what do I do? That's $1 million question everybody asks. But he proved to us that by sheer non-violence, you can overcome any difficulty, any problem, any challenge. And in yoga, basically, how is this non-violent? Non-violence is non-hurting. It's not only just non-killing. Because some of us can say, okay, this doesn't apply to me, I don't kill anyone, so I'm good. But it's not just about killing, it's about non-hurting. So when you hurt somebody through thought, whom are you hurting in thought? How do you know that I'm thinking something bad about you? I'm hurting myself. So non-violence is not just about hurting somebody else, it's about hurting yourself as well. Because when you have a bad thought, and this is the power of the mind and the brain, and today that is what stress is all about. When you have even a single negative thought, like in gossip or when you criticize somebody and you say, I can't stand that person. Guess what is happening? Nothing is happening to that person, but cortisol is immediately shot out from your brain, and that cortisol gets into your blood and it's poison. Alright, once in a while that's fine. It's not going to kill you. But how many negative thoughts we have when somebody cuts us on the road, you're like, how dare he? Mom, cortisol is coming. So every time, I just get a little dramatic here and there. But that's what's happening every time there is a negative stress. If your phone goes off and you're like, oh gosh, I have to take this call. Cortisol is released. Every time you resist something, you're violent. In yoga, you want to overcome resistance. And that is why yoga is about stretching. Why didn't thousands of years ago? Because what does stretching do in your body? It overcomes inflexibility, stretches you, and you overcome resistance. When you breathe out, bend down and touch your toes, the first thing your body is resisting. Your lower back is holding you, trying to pull you back. Your hamstrings are tight. They're saying, no, this is not for me at all. This is crazy. I'm not going to get into this. And your mind goes into a shock. Literally, the brain is not understanding left or right or up or down. That's why they call it pretzel poses. That is resistance. And then with practice, you're saying, okay, ease, breathe in that pose. And slowly overcome resistance in the body. The body reflects that by becoming more flexible. And as the body gains flexibility, in other words, you're able to do different poses, your brain is able to undertake different poses and not get stressed about it. The same situations when it happens in life, your brain doesn't get stressed about it because you have trained it in the yoga class, in the body. You're creating stress in your body as you go down, but you're telling your brain, it's okay. It's okay. It's only physical. Just focus on the breath. And the brain understands stress as something to be calm. You're retraining your brain exactly the other way around. And therefore, practice with the body, the mind gets the idea of becoming relaxed and becomes more flexible. Along with the body, the mind becomes more and more flexible. That is the beauty of practicing ahimsa in yoga. Flexibility is not just only for physical benefits, but your mind becomes flexible as well. You are able to handle all kinds of situations because now you can duck, you can bend back, you can bend forward, you can twist sideways. Whatever life demands of you, you are able to do that. You're not rigid and say, this is me, I am not going that way, I don't like that, I can't stand it, I'm not like this anymore. I'm like, okay, let me give it a try. Let me try this, let me try that. You become more open. The conditioned mind, the rigid mind suddenly starts breaking up. New neurons are fired in the brain. And so the brain is not just simply wiring together the same old neurons. It's suddenly opening up. And new neurons are fired. The brain is becoming younger and younger as you become older and older. You know, the plasticity of the brain was discovered thousands of years ago by these yogis. Today they are rediscovering that the brain is plastic. The brain doesn't get old. You can regenerate your brain. Even at the age of 80 and 90, you can make it as young as it was when you were 20. You can, by training it. So you can retrain your brain. So while most of the people are waiting for modern science to reaffirm and endorse what yogis have found, you can straight away start what yogis found and find it for yourself. So non-violence is basically any kind of resistance that you come up with, whether you hurt yourself first, and then, of course, when you hurt others, it obviously becomes a matter of hurt. You hurt others by word. You can say something nasty and hurt somebody. Baba would often tell me, when a word goes out of your mouth, remember it can never come back. You can never get back that word. So be very careful of what you speak. So, ahimsa. And then comes asteya. Asteya is non-stealing. Ahimsa, asteya. Asteya is non-stealing. You're like, oh my God, thank God, at least this one is out of me. I've been brought up with a good family. I've been raised well. So let me scratch this off my list. Non-stealing. But in yoga, let me put it this way. When you desire for something somebody else has, in your thought you already want to possess somebody else's. Somebody else is living in a grand mansion. Every time you drive by, you're like, someday I want to be there. That's it. You already stole his property in your head. Because it goes back to the same thing. Stealing is, when we take resources today, as human beings, what are we doing? We are stealing natural resources, wasting natural resources, which are meant to be given to everyone. Every human being on this planet has rights to all the resources. How many people are dying in how many countries for lack of water, for lack of food, for lack of things which are naturally should be available to anyone and everyone? It's not that we are lacking food supply in the world. It's not like we are lacking water supply in the world. It is somebody is stealing it and therefore somebody else is not getting it. And in some manner, all of us are part of that non-stealing. When I save up my money and I put it in the bank, and that bank is investing that money somewhere else, and that somewhere else is about this natural resource, I may not know, I may know. I might turn my face and say, I don't know where my money is, as long as it's safe, it's good, it's coming back to my retirement. So your $10,000 comes back to you in 20 years as $40,000. I don't know if it really becomes that much, but let's say it comes back to you as $40,000. That $30,000, where did you get it from? You didn't steal all of it. But if it has gone somewhere else and it actually caused natural resources from somewhere, then you're part of that. So we are all part in some manner in this stealing process. Every time we waste electricity in our house, every time we waste water in our home, every time I waste time, which can be shared to do something good, I am actually engaging in some kind of robbing somebody else of that possession. That is what stealing is all about. And so, non-stealing and asteya. And then you have aparigraha. Ahimsa, asteya and aparigraha. Parigraha is possessiveness, holding on to it. And aparigraha is letting go. Let go of being possessive. Asteya and aparigraha is kind of very closely related. This letting go concept is what we learn in yoga. When you go into shavasana after a yoga practice, what do you practice? You learn to let go. What do you let go? As always, you first let go of your body. The clinging to your body, you let go. And then you learn the art of letting go. And so you let go little by little. And then the aparigraha comes. You see, what happens is, an analogy. This is a story I read somewhere. It's not a real story. It's more like an analogy. There are kids playing on the banks of a river. And then it starts raining. And these kids are cold and wet. And then there is something like a blanket seems to be floating in the water. And one kid says, okay, I'm going to get that blanket. It'll kind of keep us warm. So he jumps into the water. But it's actually a bear who's fighting, and he's there. And so when he goes to this blanket thinking it's a blanket, the bear clings to him and he's getting swept by the current. And his friends are running and saying, come on, let go, come back. He says, I can't let go. This one has caught me. I can't let go. Now that is the kind of situation we find ourselves in. We go into this worldly enjoyments, if you will, or into this materialistic kind of priority-based world or lifestyle, thinking that is going to give us solace, that is going to protect me, that is going to cover me from this, that is a blanket that I'm going to, not knowing that is actually a bear which will envelop you and won't let you go. It's very difficult to extricate yourself from that once you get into those clutches. And we find ourselves like that. Sometimes we get into a relationship, we don't know how to get out of it. This friend keeps calling me every time, day in, day out. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just need to put my phone off. So you don't know how to get out of it because you got and the bear got to you. But that is how we are today. That is why we find it so difficult. If I want to change my diet, this bear called the superfood, superfast, the doubles all over the place, they are holding you back. So it's very difficult to go out and say, let me look for just salad places. Sometimes we look all over the place and there's no salad bar open. Ruby Tuesday had it for a while and they closed it here. So you don't have any, if you want to go somewhere, it's almost like the bear is pulling you back. You can't extricate yourself from the bear. That is aparigraha. So instead of going and getting caught into that, how do you let go? Right from the beginning, how do you let go? How do you learn to let go? So yoga teaches you that. And these are the fundamental value system you should have, without which all that we spoke of in the last 3 days, whether it is a Sankhya philosophy, whether it's karma yoga, whether you're going out to serve people, and whether you are engaged in a relationship with your divine principle in a form of your choice, like Krishna or Rama or Jesus or Allah, whatever you choose, all that makes no sense without these values of in your lifestyle. If these don't reflect themselves in your thought, word and deed, then all those things are practically useless. That's why Hatha Yoga has become merely a physical exercise today, because this is considered, this is something, we don't want to get into that, we just want flexibility. So what you get is only flexibility. It's like you using gold powder and saying, I'll use it to wash my vessels. It sounds funny that you will actually use gold powder to wash vessels, but that's what you do when you take a divine, powerful, holistic knowledge like yoga and say, okay, I'm just going to take this physical part out of it because I want to be flexible. and I'll practice only flexibility. You're missing the whole point of what yoga can offer. Aparigraha. Because all this frees you. That's why I said all this frees you to empower you for that mosquito repellent, so nothing will affect you. This is what we need to practice. It's very simple. You just need to develop each of these qualities, bring them to the forefront and say, okay, 5, let me see how these values play in my life. Then you have Satya, or the truth. Satya is popularly defined as honesty. And yes, the term Satya, which is truth, also includes honesty. But it's more than just being honest. It's integrity. Integrity in your thought, word and deed. How can you bring that integrity into your life? You see, the biggest rulers, the biggest leaders who changed the world, the biggest leaders whose stories have survived the test of time in the Indian culture for thousands of years, the story of Rama. For example, the story of Rama. Now, it comes under the Indian, when you talk of Indian scriptures, we talk of Vedas, then you talk of the Puranas, which are stories, mythological stories. But then they have what is called itihasas, which means historical stories. And Ramayana is a historical story. It's not one of those fabrications by the Vedas, Vedic rishis who said, alright, let's make this, take this abstract symbol and then write a story so people will relate to this abstract symbol. Ramayana and Mahabharata are considered itihasas, that which actually took place as historical account of what happened. Alright? And so, these really happened. And so, Lord Rama is the king who practiced integrity, and that is why his story is recounted. Ramo Vigrahan Dharmaha. That is, he is the very embodiment of righteousness. So, and what is that righteousness? It's integrity. Integrity in thought, word and deed. If I believe something, I'll just follow it, no matter what. He left his whole kingdom and walked away. And here we are, we would be praising Rama or worshipping him or chanting Ram Nam, and yet if my brother takes a little bit of my property, I'm out to kill him. I don't say, if you want, take it. I value our brotherhood more than anything else. We don't do that. We were ready to fight with our own family for a little piece of property. But yet we will go to Rama and say, I want to do Ramayana, and please come for my satsang. And we do Ramayana for 7 days, 8 days in that property which we fought for and held back. We miss the whole point of Rama, who said, take my whole kingdom. If that is my father's wish, I'd rather follow my righteousness. And guess what happened? He became the mightiest of kings. And he set an example for centuries where millions of people have found solace in that story. So, Satya is integrity. It needs energy, it needs power, it needs a great amount of conviction. That's why in the Gita, I brought out that sloka. Drida nishchayaha. Unshakable conviction, unshakable integrity. Krishna says that is a true devotee. That is a true devotee. Drida nishchayaha. So, and then the last one is brahmacharya. The 5 yamas. Ahimsa, asteya, aparigraha, satya and brahmacharya. Now brahmacharya is again very popularly misunderstood concept. Somehow brahmacharya has come to mean celibacy and abstinence. Now, let me explain what brahmacharya is. Brahmacharya was and has been prescribed as a stage in your life when you focus purely in the study. Now, this was written for many years ago. When you focus at that age purely in studying, what? Studying about Brahman, the highest wisdom. That was what was taught in those days. They taught you the highest wisdom, and then they taught you Vedic astrology, geography, mathematics, physics, Vedas, and all that was taught as well. But all under the canopy of the highest wisdom as to who you are. What is your true self? So, when you are lost in your true self, and you're gaining the knowledge of your true self, then you are in that stage of life called brahmacharya. And so kids who are at 12 would be sent to this guru's hermitage, the school, residential school if you will, and they would spend another 12 to 15 years there in the ashrama called brahmacharya, that stage of life when they focused completely in learning the scriptures. So when you're learning and studying till you're graduating, obviously you're not going to be married. And therefore, somehow that became a synonym for, he's a brahmachari. That means he is going to be engaged in studying the scriptures. He doesn't have time for married life and having children and going out to work for that. That will come later. So brahmacharya essentially means one who is engaged in the thought of Brahman, who is engaged in the search for Brahman. So you and I can be brahmacharyas as well. When we are focused on studying, it doesn't have to be celibacy. It can be considered celibacy or abstinence, but it doesn't in no way signify abstinence or celibacy. Brahmacharya simply means acharya of Brahman. Your actions are all focused on acquiring the knowledge of Brahman. So you're engaged in that. So these are the 5 yamas. These are the yamas that relate to the society. This is how we relate to the outside world. Outside world will see us as, I am not possessive about things on the outside. I have no concept of stealing. I don't want this desire and wanting principle. Ahimsa, I'm not going to hurt anyone by thought, word, or deed, because when I hurt somebody, it's actually going to hurt me first and then the other person. And then I am integrity. My integrity is what people see. And then the brahmacharya, that all my actions are coming out from the highest principle and the highest wisdom. Every decision I take comes from the highest principle. And therefore, this is how the society sees you. And therefore, they said yamas are called external principles, where you deal with others. And then come the niyamas. The niyamas are more or less internal. Now, these are not watertight compartments. You can argue both ways, but predominantly. So the first one is saucha, or cleanliness. Cleanliness of the body, of the mind, and of the spirit as well. Cleanliness of the body, we talked about it a little yesterday as part of the Kundalini Yoga, where in yoga, the yoga itself detoxifies your system, your muscles are squeezed, your organs are squeezed, so blood flows in and out, you increase the blood supply, there's more oxygen generated in the body, and therefore you detoxify your vital organs. And then through breathing and pranayama, you detoxify the lungs as well. So you have this tremendous amount of detoxification that takes place as you practice yoga. But then it also applies to all the food that goes into my body. When I say all the food, I mean food that goes through my mouth, through my ears, through my nose, through all the senses. Remember, whatever goes into your system through the senses, it's all food. I was reading an article, and I don't know how valid this is, but it seemed to be a very valid article based on a research, when they found that by the time a child passes preschool, this child is exposed to so much of TV that the brain has registered 80,000 murders. And they talk of even cartoons, when that cartoon picks up a gun and shoots, all that, because what they have realized and what we have studied and what yoga teaches us is that the brain does not distinguish between what you're imagining and what is real. It doesn't know the difference. It's called mirror neurons. The brain starts emitting the same signals that you're watching on a screen, because the brain is thinking that you're undergoing that experience. That is why many of us cry when we see something on the screen. We carry a lot of tissues when we go for the movie. We check, hey, what is this? Do I need to get my tissue? Yeah, I get 2 handbags full. You might need them. So, because our brain is thinking, oh my gosh, and you are identifying yourself with the character, hopefully not the bad one, but then you identify, whomever you identify with it, your brain is replaying that, and it's creating a reality. And so all those impressions are permanently being stored in your subconscious mind. And what is stored in your subconscious mind is what is going to build your reality around you, whether you like it or not. That is the truth. So it is so important that cleanliness comes in not just by on the chair you sit or on the bed you sleep, but and just the food that you eat or the water that you drink, but also what is my definition of cleanliness? And each of us have to answer this ourselves. What is cleanliness? Just like we don't like just strangers walking into your house. You'll say, hey, who are you? Don't come in. And yet the TV is blaring and every stranger is walking through that screen into my house. Every unwanted guy is walking into my head, right into my head, not just in my house, into my children's head, just with one click of a button. Have you thought about that? So, are we really clean? So what is saucha? We need to understand that. Because yoga is it's not a popularity thing here. I know I'm breaking a lot of bubbles, and it's not meant to discourage, but sometimes you have to face these ghosts in the closet. I always tell them ghosts, because if we don't face them, we'll think we're living a nice life. But maybe we need to reconsider. This is the standard that was set. And so, if you want to reach the wisdom of the highest kind, then you have to take some really strong steps, powerful steps. Tapas, austerity, is another one that you bring into your life to regulate yourself. What does it mean? I just put this picture of Yogi Iyengar doing this Raja Kapotasana. But we don't have to do that. It just shows that to do this, how much of discipline he would have undergone. How much of regular practice, how many hours he must have put in and day out, just practicing. So discipline is the key word to understand tapas or austerity. Discipline, regularity. Once you make up your mind to do something, just go ahead and do it. Do it systematically. Even if you take small steps at a time, take those small steps, but do it systematically. Even let's say you say, I'm so inspired by this yoga week and this yoga fest. You come on Sunday, you see these marvelous lectures, workshops, and you're so inspired. Start 2 days a week of yoga. Spare some time. Find a yoga center close to you. Go there 2 days a week. Start with simple exercises, simple steps. Slowly bring that discipline. Put that as priority so that your life revolves around those 2 classes. Then you'll find time for the 3rd class. And then you will really build and you will understand what this austerity helps. Because when we are focused and we build our willpower, that same energy that the mind gathers, you can easily turn it around, and even without you knowing, you'll apply it in your everyday life. You go to work and you'll suddenly become so much more productive that a project which would take 3 weeks, you would finish it off in 1 week, and you'll just be maybe browsing the internet for the next 2 weeks. I don't know if that's allowed in your office. But that is how you increase productivity, simply by bringing discipline into your life. But we eat when we like, we sleep when we like, we get up late, we just say, oh, last night was crazy, I slept late, I got up late. Your biorhythms are thrown all over the place. The pineal gland is fast asleep. The pineal gland is what supports your biorhythms. And we watch TV to the last minute till you go to sleep, so the bright light is keeping your brain alive. So you're throwing your system completely out of sync. We didn't evolve for this. I'm not saying you go home and throw the TV away. I know you won't. But I want us to understand these that's why we call this satsang. Satsang is where you explore the highest truth. Then when you compare where I am versus what is expected or what is thrown out there, you're like, you can go home and say, you know what, this is crazy, I'm happy where I am. And that's okay. That's perfectly alright. But then if you have an open mind and say, okay, this is the expectations, and I think I am way out there. So which part of me and which part of my life can I tweak to at least take those baby steps? And it's surprising, almost miraculous when I say this, that you take those baby steps, you will find the universe somehow gathering steam and providing you that right contact, the right friendship, the right time and the right energy and the right mindset. Everything suddenly seems to fall in place. And you know it in your heart, this happens. And it will happen. But all the universe waits for is the tapas. Baba would tell us often that even butter, if it needs to melt, it needs a little bit of heat. A little lamp. Somewhere you guys should have a little heat. Heat in the sense tapas. Tapaha means heat. Tapa is heat. You generate heat because you're continuously at it. You begin to melt butter. And how difficult it is to melt butter. But then you take it out of the fridge and you don't start cutting it. It'll go flying all over the place. You just put it in the heat, you soften it, and then you apply it on your bread. Even butter needs heat. So tapaha, austerity, the way you and I can relate to it is discipline. It's so very important. Then you have swadhyaya, which is self-study. Read, listen, understand, discuss, go to study circles, take a book, explain, explore. Swadhyaya is self-study. Swa-adhyaya, self-study. Don't wait for somebody to come and tell you, go and read. Get confused, it's okay. But then once you start learning, you will slowly start contemplating on, he said this, she said this, oh my God, I'm so confused, wait a minute, let me think. And then you will start seeing things a little clearer. So Swadhyaya is so very, very important. Don't be guilty saying, oh, I'm following this guru. Can I read this particular book? Or can I go to this organization? Let me explain to you one thing and let me ask you one thing. If you're stuck in Canada and your child's first birthday is in Trinidad and you have to reach Trinidad at a particular time and you perhaps missed the flight or the flight got delayed or cancelled, what would you do? Would you say, I'll wait for the next flight and I just really want my business class. I'm not going to compromise on my business class. I always travel business class. I need to get my mileage and I travel only by that airline. The child's first birthday will never come back again. It's your child's first birthday. So what will you do? You will take any means to get there for that function. Right? Any means. You won't say, no, I've been always traveling by United. I just don't go with Air Canada. I don't like it. Or whatever it is. You don't say that because at that point you're so desperate to get there. So if your search for this knowledge, if your search for higher wisdom becomes intense, then you will read everything. You will meet everyone. You will learn from wherever possible. You will keep gathering information. And then you will start getting guided. So Swadhyaya is very important, self-study. And then of course, there is Santosha or contentment. All of this, see, this is beautiful because tapas is discipline, austerity, heat, and Swadhyaya is self-study, go on reading, but then Santosha is contentment. With the attitude of contentment. There's no judgment upon you. Don't go into these saying, I'm a sinner, oh my gosh, I'm so bad, I'm miserable, I don't know how I'm ever going to reach. Once you start doing that, then that's going to become more and more real to you, that I am miserable, I'm sinful, or this is too much for me, I don't know how will I ever get there. That is lack of santosha or contentment. Being content is very crucial. And then you have Ishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara Pranidhana. This is the first time in Yoga Sutras, not here in this particular case, this is a chapter 2, all this comes up, but for the first time in Yoga Sutras, under the Sankhya umbrella, Patanjali uses this word Ishvara. We don't have time to go into that technicality of what he means by Ishvara. But he's not talking of a God that we understand by way of a religion. There is no particular God or goddess from a point of view of Ishvara. Ishvara is a state of consciousness that he talks about. Your higher self. And so, all of this is done with an attitude of surrendering to the higher self, of invoking the higher self. Pranidhana. I surrender to this highest self, and therefore I'm doing this so that it will reveal itself to me. My higher self will reveal. So there is an attitude of reverence, of worship. That attitude is so powerful. That brings in humility, because if that is not there, you could be a real proud yogi. And we have stories of that too. How proud yogis met with bad fate and things like that in the ancient Puranas. That's why Patanjali says, Ishvara Pranilana. Make it as an offering. Yearn. Bring a prayer element to it. Do it with reverence. And that's why they say this temple in yoga always regards the body as a temple. Just like you keep your altar clean in your house. Just like temples are built with so much precision, so much care. This body is a temple of a divine energy. And therefore, you got to hold it with reverence. Treat it with reverence. Treat others' body with reverence, because every vessel holds within it that mystical energy that we worship within us. If I'm worshipping that energy within me, then obviously I worship it in everyone else. So we treat people with respect. So these are the 5 yamas and the 5 niyamas that we have to practice in our everyday life. When I was in Baba's presence, and I'll finish in 10 minutes. When I was in Baba's presence, one day he asked me, do you know the yamas and niyamas? How many are there? And I proudly said 10, because by then I had known it was more than 5. I said 10. What are they? 10 each. What are they? And I couldn't recollect. And so I just started saying something, and I threw in here and there whatever I knew. And Baba laughed, and there was another elderly devotee there. He said, he's just cooking up his own yamas and niyamas. And he laughed at me. And then he looked at my hand and he says, where's your watch? Where's your watch? You don't have a watch? I said, no. And then he materialized a watch and gave me. But that's not the point here. He says, all your yamas and niyamas are in this watch. And this is what he said. Wear this every day. watch. And he told me this. And he has said this to so many people as well. Watch. W is for words. Watch your words. Watch your words. Watch your actions. Watch your thoughts. So this is integrity right there. The satya that we talked about, the non-violence that we talked about, the asteya and the aparigraha is all in this words, actions and thoughts. Thoughts, word and deed, if they are integral to each other, like if a person is smoking and he has a cigarette in his hand, he is smoking. His action is that of smoking. His mind is saying, I must give up smoking. So that is another direction. It's going in another direction. Wants to give up smoking. But he's telling his friend, I've already given up smoking. This is just one odd thing. So his action is going in one direction. His word is going in another direction. And his mind is going in another direction. So that person can never practice integrity. Integrity is I think something, I say something, I do something. It has to be integral. That is why Baba would often tell us, and all of us wore, for years we wore only whites in the ashram. I would never go in Baba's presence not wearing a white, except if when it was a sports event and we were in the ground. He would say the reason why you're wearing white is you training yourself that not even a single spot of dirt will fall on it, because that becomes visible. So you'll be watching where you sit, you'll watch how you stand, you'll watch where you walk. If there's a puddle, you will avoid it. You'll be very mindful of where you are when you're wearing a white. And so he trained us to bring that kind of concept in your thought, word and deed. When you're practicing cleanliness, then you wear white. And then character. Watch your character. To me, character is your inner core belief. What is your innermost belief system? That determines your character. Not external, good character, bad character. I'm not talking of that. Go deep within and ask, what is my belief system? Am I believing in gods out of fear? Or do I really believe in them? Am I believing it because somebody told me about them from my childhood? Am I just been brainwashed? Or what is it? What is my belief system? Where have I really discovered what I truly believe in? Because belief is very powerful. There's a whole biology of belief that has now come up. Right? And so they know that what is deep inside your belief system is what is manipulating your thought, word and deed. You can't change that. So you have to go within and explore what your belief system is. And that comes to surface with the practice of yoga. And the last one is your heart. Your heart. Feelings. If your belief system is what is going to generate, what kind of feelings that govern your actions and thoughts? What are your intentions behind your action? Like we talked about in Karma Yoga, what is the highest form of service? Nishkama Karma, selfless service. It's not about me. I just want to do it. That is your attitude. You just want to do and serve people. It becomes Nishkama Karma. When you watch your words, actions, thoughts, character and heart, he says, then you're wearing a watch. That, if you remember these 5, you don't have to remember yamas and niyamas. And I found that is fascinating because all of this actually are contained in all the yamas and niyamas. So Baba, for me, in my personal life with him, he trained me to be this 21st century yogi. I really wanted to do research in yoga. I wanted to become a sannyasi. But he said, do in finance and banking. He didn't give me a choice. You have to do it. And I didn't like it. I was talking of resistance, but I was resisting every moment till I finally said, okay, I have really no excuse, but I have to do this banking and finance. But I did banking and finance. And I really wanted to be a monk up in the Himalayas. And he found Maya for me. And he married. And the name Maya, I don't think it's a coincidence also. But I don't regret that one though. This, therefore, the constant integrated awareness, as Baba explained to us once, is pure prajnanam brahma. Prajnana is the highest form of wisdom. Highest form of wisdom. And he said that prajnana, that wisdom is not something to be attained. That wisdom itself is the Brahman. And you are that wisdom. He said you are that wisdom. Remember, you're not attaining that wisdom. You are that wisdom. That knowing principle. So in that sense, he took us right back to the Purusha state in Sankhya. He said, you are that knowing principle. You are Prajnanam Brahma. And so, he was the one who coined this term, constant integrated awareness. And he taught us this is the only value system you need in today's education, in today's your lifestyle. In today's lifestyle, you need constant integrated awareness. And when I passed my PhD, and on my very first time when I was going to teach, because Baba said, now you teach in my college, and I was a lecturer. I was sitting and waiting for him to come so I could touch his feet and go for my first day. And even then, he asked me, what are you going to teach? What do you want to teach? I said, Swami, I want to teach yoga. He laughed. He said, no. And of course, he told me some other things regarding that. That's out of context here. But then he said, constant integrated awareness. That is yoga. You practice that. And when you practice, when you're ready, you will be able to share that. But that is where he comes from. That is the kind of philosophy that he taught us. That is the kind of philosophy he lived in his everyday life. I lived with him in his room for many months, and you would see Baba in a Mercedes Benz or sitting on this big throne, and you'll be like, wow, he's really having a good life. That's what I thought too when I went there. I wasn't a devotee of Baba when I went there. Let me not start there, because I'll hold you up here for 2 or 3 hours. I can hold you a whole night, tell you these fantastic stories. So when he asked me, what do you want? The very first moment I said, I want to be in your room, because I wanted to see what he does, what he eats, how does he sit, does he have a TV in his room, does he have air conditioner in his room, what does he do? Because I was from Bombay, and I had seen enough holy men in my life, and I wanted to make sure that if everybody is going to fall at his feet, I'm going to spend my whole time college here, I might as well know who this guy is. And so, but I did it with reverence. I didn't mean, it was not audacity that I said, I want to be in your room. I said, I want to be in your room, because I wanted, the stories I heard about him were so fascinating. I said, I have to find that faith in me. That's why I tell people, you have to find that belief system. My stories can't help you. It'll excite you for a little bit. You'll say, wow, you're lucky, go home. But that won't do anything. You have to find that hotline with your own divine source, whatever that form and name, it really doesn't matter. You find that link. I wanted to find that link with Baba, and I found it. And there are many, many, many stories. But when I saw him live in that little room which is 10 feet by 12 feet, a little bedroom which is 10 feet by 10 feet, and he would use his flashlight early in the morning, and he would use a towel which is like less than 4 rupees in India. It's probably less than a quarter of the TT dollar. And because he would say, this is not my money, it's devotees' money, it's devotees' money. Everything he would be always for giving others. And that fascinated me, changed me as a youngster, and I decided this is where I'm going to be for the rest of my life. And until I found everything that I wanted to find, I didn't let go of my stay there. So that is the energy and the power of a guru. And I really offer all my 4 days of lecture at the lotus feet of Baba. So this is it, folks. All that we spoke about in the last 4 days is just this. This is who we think we are, and that is who we truly are. In 1984, in Baba's birthday, he said, there's only one thing I want to give you on this birthday, and this, if you practice every day, is all that you need. So here's the shortest cut. I'm giving you the best for the last. And he says, say this every day, and that is all you need to say. I am God, I am God, I am not different from God. I am the eternal, indivisible, absolute. He used the word Akhanda Parabrahma. I am Sat Chit Ananda, I am being, awareness, bliss. Grief and anxiety cannot affect me, fear cannot enter me. I am always content. I am God, I am God, I am not different from God. I'm going to leave this screen so you can digest this message, write down this message, think about this message, and however obscure it might seem to you, start saying it. Fake it till you make it. Keep saying it. Keep saying it. It starts making sense. When I was first new to Trinidad, I say first new, I still am new, but I use my Waze quite often. So when I put an address on the Waze, I don't see the entire path on my little screen. But I trust that, and it says take a left, I just take a left. I don't know where it's going to lead me next. And then it says take a right, I take a right. Now if I don't see the whole path, you don't need to see the whole path, but take the first step, at least start saying it. Because if you say, I want to become God, that becoming will be, even at 90 years, you will say, someday I will become God. When that becoming will be, when you will be saying, I am. So start it from now. So, when you take those small steps by saying, the next step opens up. And if I can trust a Waze, which is it's probably free right now. So if I can trust a free app on a $500 phone, why can't I trust the highest truth that has withstood this test of time? That divinity that you're searching for is within you. No matter what your path is, whether you're karma yoga or a bhakti yoga, whether you say, this is all too much for me, I'm going to sit in front of the statue of Krishna and I'm going to cry my heart out, do it. That's by all means do it. If rituals and pujas are the only way you can relate to the divine, do it. But then at the end of the night, when you go to bed, tell yourself, I am that God. That Hanuman that I am praising, that power that I am giving to Hanuman is actually being the power within me. And that is the energy that we draw into ourselves. So thank you very much. I'm going to open the floor for some questions based on all that you heard in the last 4 days. If there's any questions, please feel free to ask. Any thoughts that you want to share, please feel free to share. Anybody? Somebody has to break the ice. The first day we started with the Sankhya Yoga, which itself was the philosophy of the highest kind. The second day we explored the different paths, the karma path, the path of action, the path of bhakti, where both take you to the same fundamental principle of going back to who you truly are, the cosmic I, the cosmic high. It's not within you, you are part of that. You know, one beautiful conversation once we had with Baba, just two of us or three of us were sitting, and Baba said something about him being divine, and one boy said, and just smiled and said, of course Baba, you are divine, and you are divine, but we are just human beings, or something like that he said. And Baba just smiled very beautifully, and he shared a very powerful truth, and that is the kind of perception that these people had, these masters had, the difference in your perspective. Everything was different inside. This is what he said. There is no difference between you and me. You know what? Why you find the difference? The difference is because you think you are a small speck in this big universe. I think this whole universe is a small speck in me. Akhanda Parabrahman. Akhanda. Eternal, indivisible, absolute. That is all the differences. The difference is in perception. So spiritual growth is actually simply changing your perception, changing the definition of who you are. From being I am so and so, you start saying I am God, I am God, I am not different from God. So thank you once again for this great opportunity. I am very, very grateful to each and every one of you for taking time and coming and attending these lectures in spite of it being a weekday, a working day. If you need more of these, and if you can tolerate more of me, I'm very glad and I'm at your service. You can do this as often as you want, because I know that this is what all of us need. The more I speak, I get inspired to integrate more of it into my life. The more you hear, I'm sure you will be inspired as well. And we learn together. And let's take these steps to go raise back our lives to its highest possible potential. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Dr. Iyer. I now hand you over to Sri Dirup Timal, the chairman of the International Day of Yoga Committee, for closing remarks.
Namaskar. Pleasant good night, everyone. Thank you, Anushka ji. We give Dr. Sundarai, I think, a very difficult task. For just 1.5 hours, for 4 nights, to enlighten us as much as possible about the entire range of what we would like persons to know about yoga. Because when the committee was formulated last year, one of the thoughts that was uppermost in our minds is that, of course, when we hear the word yoga, particularly in the West, we would always think about the Hatha Yoga and the asanas and those things. But in terms of the full potential within the term yoga, particularly in terms of connecting our body, mind and soul, body and mind, intellect, together with our spiritual beings in one integrated approach to living. That was a vision we had from the year before. And I think we have been exceedingly fortunate to have the hard work to begin with from the members of the committee and to have Dr. Iyer to present to us over these 4 nights. I think just within those 6 hours, he was able to start off like Lord Krishna did to Arjuna on the battlefield, to lay the groundwork for the intellectual or the Jnana Yoga by delving into the Sankhya Yoga and using it as the base, which is the traditional philosophical base for the Hindu tradition. And right away there, I think he was able to show us that with the Purusha, that divine consciousness, and the Prakriti, the physical manifestation, he was able to signal to us that it's not just only a question of an inner journey. Yoga not only being inward to experience that inner consciousness, but through the Prakriti, it also calls on us to journey outwards, to understand the divine consciousness within the external, and for us to be able to conceptualize and bring it into our lives of how we can integrate a yogic approach to life. And within the time, he was able to talk about all of the 25 tattvas, giving us that basic understanding. And then, of course, in other night, it was all about karma and bhakti. And again, with karma, in terms of the world of work, the world of action. And not necessary to just give up work and action, because it's what life is constituted of, the need to make effort and to take action. But to do it in such a way that it is harmonized in such a yogic approach that both work and devotion could be harmonized by the practice of yoga. And then, of course, with the Kundalini, and particularly the night when he presented about the Kundalini, he took the Upanishadic concept of the koshas and the sheaths that constitute our body, and he very, very masterfully demonstrated the connection with the chakras and the ascension through the chakras, the Kundalini Yoga, weaving it within the fabric of the sheaths, which is the gross manifestation of our bodies, and then the mental, and again bringing that integrated approach to living through yogic practice. And of course, tonight, in terms of a yogi's lifestyle, what he has left us with again, very beautifully, is that, of course, it's about ourselves. So that there are the niyamas, which are values based on which we live, that is of benefit to our person, our individual being. So of course, be good. But then, very, very interesting, and I think we should note, is that the yamas is about others. So you see, the practice of yoga is not just about ourselves, about the values that are necessary to live with others, the yamas. So it's not only a question of being good, it's a question of doing good, because there are others involved in life. So I think over the past 4 nights, Dr. Iyer has really done an excellent job, and really and truly, he has left us tonight with the constant integrated awareness, which he has learned. And just one thing I would take the liberty of adding, Maharishi Aurobindo, in his look at yoga, and he speaks a lot about the synthesis of yoga based on his own personal experiences in his spiritual pursuits. He said that all life is yoga. All life is yoga. Combine that with the constant integrated awareness, you see how powerful and effective yoga can be, not only in the lives of individuals, but in our collective lives, and for the benefit of the entire world and all of humanity. There are no distinctions based on, gender, nothing based on differences in philosophy and thoughts and all of those things. Yoga is really an attempt to synthesize, harmonize, and balance life for us and for all beings on this planet. So Dr. Aya, our deepest appreciation, all of us here and the members of the committee, for the offering that you have, for your offering of love, your offering of knowledge based on a spirit of compassion, which is based on your personal experience and your life journeys thus far. So we really appreciate this presentation over the nights. I just would like to thank, we had some persons, the support of some persons and some corporations and entities. So I'd like to thank Radio Heritage 101.7 for their coverage of this lecture series, Digicel, Digiplay for their support that helped us to stream the proceedings through YouTube, and then for all those who donated fruits and water every night, our thanks. To all supporters, we give our thanks. But tonight I would probably just crave your indulgence just for 1 or 2 minutes, because I know we know the names of the organizations involved with the International Day of Yoga Committee. But I would like to really call out some names tonight of the members of the International Day of Yoga Committee who have actively participated in the organization of the Yoga Boardwalk program we had on Monday, this lecture series, and our program that we'll be having on Sunday, which we would hear a bit more about. But before I do so, I would also like to thank Srimati Maya Aya for doing the video recording every night and also making sure that Sundarji was here. So I would just like to call on Pandita Indrani. Before I call the names of the members of the committee, Pandita Indrani Rampasad, who is one of our members, and Sri Lalchanduki, who is also one of our members, to just make a small presentation to Dr. Aya, just a token of our appreciation.
Thank you.
Yeah, Doctor, just panic overload. Right. So, yes, the members of the International Day of Yoga Committee, of course, our guides, our seniors, our elders, in terms of wisdom, of course, we have Yogacharya Alex Benjamin, Dr. Sundaraya, Pandita Indrani Ramprasad, and Pandit Amar Sitprasad. Then we have Rojanath Singh, who is Vice Chairman of the committee, Vani Ram Kalawan, our Secretary, Lalchan Duki, Birendra Duki, Jagdish Pare, Rupesh Mahavir, Navin Mangal, Vishma Khatri, Kelvin Ramprasad, Diyan Singh, Krishna Ram Singh, Revan and Anushka Tilak Singh, And of course, our point man, Arvind Singh, Dr. Arvind Singh. Thank you very much. I now hand you over to Anushka.
Thank you, Derbji. Just to remind you all, Yoga Fest is this Sunday, 26th of June, right here at the Diwali Nagar from 9:30 a.m. to 4:15 p.m. There will be yoga demonstrations, workshops, and lectures on art of fasting, yoga for youth, Ayurvedic health, and much more. As you leave the hall, please partake in fruits and water which are available for you. Also be sure to visit the Chinmaya Mission and the Sri Satya Sai Baba bookstores. And thank you all for coming, and to those who have joined on Radio Heritage 101.7 FM and via live stream. Thank you.